Hi everyone, thanks for joining me. You're watching In Deep on the Delta, and I'm out at Herman and Helen's Resort here on the Delta. And Herman and Helen's hasn't been open for about 20 years. And man, when you talk about the Dirty D, I don't think it gets any dirtier than where I'm at now. But it's a great place to do a quick rod review. I've got a little shade over me, so in the sun I can get out of the sun and relax a little bit. So let's get on with it. And today, as I said, we're going to do a quick rod review, and you're going to notice I've done two other rod reviews, and I'll probably end up doing maybe 3 or 4 when all is said and done. And the reason being is that I am only talking about my all-time favorite rods. And today I'm going to talk about the rod that probably produces more numbers of fish for me on the Delta than any other rod, and it is by far the rod that I have the most fun on. And this is the Tatula Elite Series cranking rod. Now, it works great for crankbaits, but my favorite application for this rod is a small popper like a bubble walker. Now, I know a lot of you fellas out there may not want to pay that $250 range for a rod, but I'm going to try to sell you on this because I think it is a very versatile rod. Through the summer months, I always have a top water on, either a bubble walker, a Rico, some style of popper, or a small walking bait. It's rated for a ½ ounce to 2 ounces. I don't know how they gave this thing a 2 ounce rating. It's probably best suited for throwing stuff in the ½ ounce to 1 ounce range. But all summer long, I have a top water on this. Spring and fall, I have what a square bill on it, which it's designed to do, and it does very well. But it really also excels during the winter if you are a jerkbait fisherman. The Megabass 110, which a lot of guys use out here, it throws the Megabass 110 great. It just has that kind of slow action, fairly slow tip, but a lot in the butt section. We're going to get into that in a little bit, but it just has that perfect action that once you hook a fish, especially when you are using baits that have treble hooks and you get this the fish pinned on this rod, it is an absolute fun rod to fish with because you get a lot of bend in the rod, and it's got that kind of bouncy feel to it where when the fish is shaking its head or jumping, you're not going to lose the fish. Now I'll talk about how I set this rod up real quick. I pair it with a Shimano DC. This is a 7-foot rod, and it is a glass rod, so that's one of the reasons why it's got that it's not a buggy whip, but if you're used to a really fast graphite rod, it's going to feel a little slow to you. But that's okay for the applications that we're using it for. So we've got the Tatula Elite rod. We have a Shimano DC reel. It's 55 or 65 pound braid. To that braid, whether I'm using a bubble walker or a crankbait or a jerkbait, I always use kind of the same leader. So I have a braid to leader. My leader for the bubble walker is 18 pound Maxima. If I am fishing a square bill or a jerkbait, I may have 10 or 12 pound test, and the leader length can be anywhere from 4 to about 10 feet long, depending on water clarity and the situation. Now, from the braid to the mono, I use an Alberto knot, and from the mono to the lure, I use a Palomar knot. Pretty simple setup, and you can use that same style of leader for all 3 of the applications that we talked about. Now, why do I like fishing these bubble walkers and poppers on this so much? Number one, I can pitch. I can underhand pitch. It's only a 7-foot rod, and it is a very accurate rod. Usually the slower rods with the slower tips are much more accurate than say a high modulus graphite that has a very quick tip. These are much more forgiving. So I can throw top waters like bubble walkers and small walking baits in places that normally people only throw frogs in. The advantage of this style bait with a couple of treble hooks is you have so much better hookup rate. And that's one of the big complaints that I have with frogs. I use frogs out here. This does not replace a frog rod. You are going to need a frog rod with a frog on it throughout the summer months to fish through the heavy slop. But anytime that I have a hole or a place, let's just say in between the vegetation and the bank in the trough, where I can throw this is what I use. Just a short underhand pitch cast, pop it very subtly. When the fish comes up and grabs it, give it a second. And I know a lot of people say they like that swing hook set. With a rod like this, I like to just smoke them. I like to put the bend in that rod, and that's how I have my fun. I know that may not be the normal way to fish it, but I like to get the rod bent, and I love to set the hook. That's why I like to bass fish. If I wanted to use 2-pound test leader and fish for trout, I'd be doing that. But my favorite thing to do with this rod is just wait for that fish to grab it, feel he's on there, and just smoke him. Once you get this rod bent down into about the midsection in here, like I said, this is fairly limber here, but once you get that fish pinned on the midsection, it can jump, it can shake its head, it can do whatever it wants, and you very seldom lose fish on this rod. So think about that, guys. When you're buying your next rod, sometimes the cheapest rod is not the best value. It is in the $250 class, but it is a rod that you can use throughout the year. It's the Tatula Elite Series cranking rod. It's the 7-foot rod, and I believe it's rated for 10 to 20 pound tests, 1/2 to 2 ounces. They're sold all over any place where Daiwa is sold. I will put all the information in the remarks so you guys know what we're talking about. And man, these things are just so much fun. And one thing I forgot to bring up is I've beat the heck out of this rod for the last 10 years. I've never broken it because it is it's a glass composite rod. It is a very tough rod. So unlike a lot of the high modulus graphite where a lot of people tend to tap them on the side of the boat or something, they end up breaking, this rod's going to be around for a long time. So thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe. I'm going to get back to doing a little fishing, and hey, see you guys on the water. Thanks for watching.